5 men set out to sea. One of them is named Robert Parker. The group of men find themselves shipwrecked and abandoned on an island for so long that they resort to cannibalism, and the victim, Robert Parker. Although this was just a story by Edgar Allan Poe, the most chilling reality is this really happened 5 years later, and the victim's name, Robert Parker. Although it may sound counterproductive, when Edgar Allan Poe and his wife Virginia needed a getaway, they moved to New York City. Perhaps not surprising due to the macabre nature of his work, he led a life here many historians call miserable. The getaway then turned into a final resting place for Poe when his wife Virginia contracted tuberculosis. They both thought that the fresh air in the Bronx would do them well. The Bronx and New York City was a very different place than it is now. This area specifically was called Fordham Manor. According to Smithsonian.com, Poe rented this cottage for a mere $100 a year, given today's housing market in New York City. But for a struggling poet in the 1840s, this was a very heavy sum. Access date, March 9th, 2016. Our next location is Edgar Allan Poe Street, located off the corner of Broadway and 84th Street in Manhattan. This was the original home of Edgar Allan Poe and his wife before they moved to Fordham Manor. I can assure you that Edgar and his wife saw nothing that we see now because the entire landscape was country. There were no pavements, no skyscrapers, and certainly less people. That red light that you see right there is the corner of 84th and Broadway where I was just standing. Now I'm walking down Edgar Allan Poe Street to West End Avenue. The reason is because the original location of the house is disputed. It was leveled due to the financially minded Manhattan developers in the 1900s, so no one is sure exactly where the house really stood. Regardless of whether the house was here, 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 or maybe even right here, it's still the home of where historians say Edgar Allan Poe composed perhaps his most famous work, The Raven. Poe's inspiration for The Raven was inspired by Mount Tom. Mount Tom is a rocky outcropping located in Riverside Park off of West 84th Street. The watercolor image that you just saw is a quite accurate depiction of what the house looked like according to historians, but shows little about where the house actually stood. According to ManhattanPass.com, several accounts attest that the house was located at 84th Street and Bloomingdale Road, but Bloomingdale Road was then incorporated into Broadway, adding ambiguity to where the house actually stood. Access date, March 8th, 2016. Another account from the same website claims that the house was more likely 100 feet off Broadway and 84th Street, so that could mean from this stretch right here all the way to where I was just standing. That's enough for me. I'd rather you hear from the future version of Aaron. Go ahead, Aaron.